So now let's get down to the jam module so we can do some tests there. I have unbolted the inside fuse box off camera. So I unbolted it from this bracket over here. So our fuse box is free. And this box over here is our jam module, our generic electronic module. Okay. Now I don't want to remove this fuse box completely, because if I do, I'm going to have to disconnect the electrical connectors back there. And I want those connectors connected to the fuse box to do my test. So now we're going to do our power and ground testing at this generic electronic module. Okay. So this over here is the jam module. Now we're going to test our ground wire first. I did look at the wiring diagram off camera, and I wrote down all the wires that we have to test. So this module only has one ground wire. It's the pink wire. It's pin 26, and it's a pink wire with an orange tracer. Now, I already looked at this off camera. So this over here is our pink wire with our orange tracer, and this is pin 26. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna back probe this wire. So we're gonna back probe pin 26. So I got this wire back probed. So now we're gonna use our test light to test this ground. So I'm gonna connect my test light to this jumper wire over here. Okay, so this side of the test light is connected to this wire. Now I have my power probe connected to the battery. So since I'm doing this one-handed, it's going to be a little bit tough, but bear with me. So as you can see, I touch the other side of the test light, my back probe beeps. So this tells me that there is ground at the jam module. So I'm going to flip the switch. Let's see if our test light is going to light. So right there, test light lights. So this tells me that we have good ground at the jam module. Okay, so my test light, so this test light is connected to the generic electronic module. And when I send power to the other side of the test light, okay, so that's good. We have good ground going to the jam module. So now we're going to test our power wires. Now this module, I don't know if I mentioned that already, only has one ground wire. Okay, and then there is a power wire on this connector over here, and it is, let me look at my notes. So pin 18 is a power wire, and it's a red wire with a yellow tracer. So pin 18. So over here, oops, so this will be pin 18. So I'm gonna back probe pin 18. It's so hard for me to show you guys because these numbers on the connector are very small, tiny numbers, and the wires are very small too. Okay, so just take my word for it. Okay, I'm gonna back probe pin 18 right now. All right, so I'm back probing pin 18. So I back probed our power supply wire. So now I'm gonna switch my test light to ground. Okay, so I have ground on this side of the power probe. So I'm gonna connect it to this side of the test light. So there's ground on this side of the test light. So my test light is connected to ground. If I send power on the other side of the test light, my test light should light. Right there, test light lights. So if we touch power on this side of the test light should light. Now I'm going to turn the key on. So So key is on the dash. If we have power on this wire over here on pin 18, when we touch our test light to this back probing tool, our test light should light. So right there, test light lights. Okay, so our one ground wire to the jam module has ground. Our one power wire has power. Now, there are fuses that we have to test. So there are two fuses that we have to test that send power to this jam module. It's fuse 20 and fuse 8. Okay, now to get access to these fuses, we're gonna have to flip the fuse box up so we can get access to these fuses, okay? Because there is a connection between this module and the fuse box. There are pins between this module and the fuse box, okay, that send power to this module. So I'm gonna have to flip this fuse box so we can test those two fuses. If those two fuses are good, then I will feel comfortable replacing this jam module, okay? So I'm gonna flip this fuse box up so we can test those fuses. I'm gonna do that off camera and then I'll bring you guys back up. Actually, before I flip this up, I'm gonna take you to the wiring diagram so I can show you these fuses on the wiring diagram. Here is what we have on the wiring diagram. This is our generic electronic module. As you can see, it's on top of the fuse box and there is a connection between our generic electronic module. Let me zoom you guys in a little bit so you can see. There is a connection between this module and this fuse over here. And this is fuse 8. It's a 5 amp fuse. So this fuse sends power to our generic electronic module. And then there's another one over here. Okay, same module, generic electronic module. And this fuse over here, fuse 20, it's a 15 amp fuse. This fuse sends power to this module. Okay, and both of these fuses are in the central junction box, lower left side of the dash. So these two fuses are on the fuse box that's below the dashboard. Okay, so now let's go back in the truck and test these fuses. Okay, I wanted to show you these fuses on the wiring diagram before we test them. So now let's go back in the truck and test these fuses. I have flipped the fuse box. Now we have access to the fuses. I'm going to turn the key on. So right there, key is on. We're going to use our test light to test our fuses. My test light is connected to ground. If I send power on this side of the test light, my test light is going to light. So right there, test light lights. So my test light is good. Now we're going to test fuse 8, which is a 5 amp fuse, and then fuse 20, which is a 15 amp fuse. Now, we don't have numbers on the fuse box, so these fuses are not numbered, and the fuse box cover doesn't have a relay and fuse layout. So it's hard to tell which fuse is what unless we go and test all of them. Now, we used service info. I used service info off camera to actually figure out which fuses I need to test. So here is our fuse box layout. So fuse 8 is this one over here, and this over here is fuse 13. So we're gonna test fuse 13 and fuse 8. Okay, so based on my fuse box layout, so this is fuse 8. So right there, test light on one side of the fuse. Let's test the other side of the fuse. Right there. So this fuse is good. So fuse 8 is good. And as you can see, it's a 5 amp fuse. So we have power on both sides of the fuse. So the fuse is good. Now this over here is fuse 13. We're going to test fuse 13. We have power on one side of the fuse. We have power on the other side of the fuse. So both sides of the fuse have power. So the fuse is good. So all these fuses are good. Okay. So fuse 8 and fuse 13 are good. So our jam module should be working. And since it's not working, that tells me that our problem is the jam module. So since the fuses tested out okay, we have good fuses. The fuses that send power to the jam module are good, and we have ground and power at the jam module. This module should be working right now. Since it's not working, it's bad. So now let's replace it. So I got the fuse box flipped again. Here is our jam module. I'm gonna disconnect this connector here. And then we have two big connectors up there. I'm gonna get these two big connectors disconnected so we can remove the entire fuse box. And once we get the fuse box out, then we can replace this jam module, okay? This generic electronic module. So I'm gonna get these two big connectors disconnected off camera, and then I'll bring you guys back up so we can remove the fuse box. I got the fuse box out. Now we can remove our generic electronic module. So I already got these bolts loose. These bolts hold this generic module on the back of the fuse box. Now, disconnecting these two big connectors over here was a pain in the butt. It's really tight up there, so you have to finesse these pretty well for the fuse box to come out. And those two connectors connect over here. So let's get this jam module disconnected from the fuse box. We're gonna rock it back and forth like this. I'm pulling it up just like that. So here it comes. So we got our jam module disconnected from the fuse box. Okay, I'm gonna clean this area and then we're gonna install our new jam module. I already got a new generic electronic module from Auto ECM. I'm gonna clean this up and then we're gonna install our new jam module. So let's get this out of the way. So here is our old jam module. If you look closely here, I don't know if you can see, the board in the jam module looks burnt. So let me see if we can open this. I'm going to try to open this because the board inside looks burnt. Now there's a core on this module, so let's not damage it because we gotta get our money back for the core. Okay, so the box is lifting up. So this side does not look bad. Let me see. Because the other side looked burnt to me. Okay. Oh, check this out. There's your problem, lady. You see how burnt this is? So this is the problem. So this makes me happy. So seeing this tells me that we made the right call. This jam module was bad. Okay. So this is the bad one. Let's get these out of the way. Okay, as you can see, it's burnt. So this is why the wiper motor was not working. And this is also why the washer pump was not working. Okay, so bad jam control unit. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna close this just like that. All right, so let's get this out of the way. I'm gonna show you the new one before we install it. Okay, so here is our brand new generic electronic module, and I got this from Auto ECM. Okay, so we got this from Auto ECMs. I'm gonna clean up the fuse box and then we're gonna install this. I cleaned the back of our fuse box, so now we are ready to install our new generic electronic module. So here is our new generic electronic module from Auto ECMs. I'm gonna show you the old one once again before I install this new one. So here is the old one, and I showed it to you. The board is burnt. As you can see, this is burnt. So this is the problem. So this is trash. We're gonna get this out of the way. Now we're gonna install our new jam module. So we're gonna make sure it's lined up here, just like that. And then we're gonna push it down. Okay, and then we're gonna install these screws. So just like that, and then we're gonna tighten these screws. Easy peasy. All right, so our new generic electronic module has been installed. Here is the part number from Auto ECMs. Okay, so now I'm gonna install this. Installing this fuse box is a pain in the butt, especially connecting these two connectors over here. These two big connectors are very difficult to get to. So I'm gonna install the fuse box off camera. I'm gonna get it installed and then I'll bring you guys back up so that we can verify our repair. Okay, so I'm gonna get this installed and then I'll bring you guys back up. It's pretty straightforward. It's not really hard to install. You have to get these connectors connected. The brown connector goes over here and then the white connector goes on this hole over here. But the thing is, getting to the bolt that hold the connector on the fuse box is a pain. All right, so I'm gonna get this installed and then I'll bring you guys back up. I got the two big electrical connectors reconnected on the back of the fuse box. So now I'm gonna reconnect this small connector. So now we're gonna reconnect this one here. Just like that. Actually, I already noticed something. This wasn't beeping before. So the door is open. The door is open. Before, this was not beeping. So let me remove the key. So this is a good sign already. Okay, so the key is removed. It's beeping now. We're good. Now I'm gonna flip the fuse box up and then I'll bring you guys back up so we can verify our repair. It's the moment of the truth. I have reinstalled our multifunction switch on the steering column. Our fuse box is reinstalled Our new jam module is on the back of it. So everything is back together. So now let's turn the key on and then let's see if the wiper blades are gonna work. So I'm gonna turn on the key. Oh, there. Very good. You see that? We got a fix. So this vehicle came to us because the wiper blades were not working and it was stuck on defrost. We fixed that. Now we also have fixed the wiper blades. Our wiper blades are now working. So we're good. Okay. And our washer fluid is now coming. You see that? You see that fluid there? Remember, like I told you earlier, whatever that's affecting the wiper motor is also affecting the washer pump. So now everything is working. We're good to go. This is fixed. We made the right call. What was causing the wiper motor to not work and the washer pump to not work was a defective generic electronic module. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reinstall the steering column covers. So these two covers over here. So these two covers go on the steering column and they're very straightforward to install. And then this cover is gonna go over here, okay? So I don't have to show you how I'm gonna install these covers. Installing these covers is really straightforward. I'm gonna install these covers off camera and then I will bring you guys back up so that we can wrap up this video. Now when I turn the key on, we have the buzzer buzzing. So the buzzer is now working. It's buzzing now. It wasn't buzzing before. So that's good. We made the right call. We fixed this. This vehicle came to us because the wipers were not working. It was stuck on defrost. We fixed that. The problem was a bad vacuum pump under the hood. Now our wipers are working, so we're good to go. I'm gonna put everything back together and then I'll bring you guys back up so we can wrap up this video. Actually, before we wrap up this video, I wanna redo the test that we were doing at the multi-function switch to see if our wipers will work. Now, since we have a new generic electronic module installed, I'm gonna redo this test. You don't have to watch this part. This is not really important because we know that our wiper motor is now working. Our wipers are working now. This is not really important, but for learning purposes, I would like to do this. Remember, the first wire that we checked was the dark blue wire. This is the wire that sends ground that comes from the gen module. On the wiring diagram, it says that we should have return reference on this one, okay? So I'm going to back probe this dark blue wire, which we already did earlier. Okay, we're gonna use a multimeter to see if we have any voltage on that wire. Okay, so that wire should have ground. So I'm gonna connect my jumper wire on that wire. We're gonna use this multimeter, just like we did earlier, to test that dark blue wire. Now my multimeter is connected to ground. If I send power to this lead, we should read system voltage on the multimeter. Okay, so I'm gonna send power down this lead. So right there, we have system voltage on the multimeter screen. So I'm sending power down this red test lead. We got system voltage there. Okay, so our multimeter is connected to ground. So now I'm going to touch this jumper wire that's coming from the dark blue wire. So right now the key is off. Let me turn on the key and see what happens. And again, this is just for learning purposes. So key is on the dash. Okay, so now let's attach this test lead to this jumper wire. Okay, so attached this test lead to the jumper wire. We have 0.02 volt, okay, which we didn't have before, 0.02 volt. So this tells me that there is now ground on this dark blue wire. Okay, we now have ground on this dark blue wire, so that's good. So now, the other test I did was I switched my back probing tool to this pink wire with a yellow tracer, and then I was bypassing the switch with a test light. So I had my test light connected to ground, then I was touching it to this back probing tool to see if our wipers were gonna come on. So now I'm gonna do that. Let's see if we can turn on the wiper blades by sending ground down this pink wire with a yellow tracer. So we're gonna do that by connecting our test light to ground. So my test light is connected to ground. So let me make sure. Let me make sure that my test light is connected to ground. So test light is connected to ground. If I send power on this side of the test light, my test light should light. So watch this. So right there, test light lights. So I have ground on this side of the test light. So if I touch this back probing tool, we're gonna be sending ground down this pink wire, and since our jam module is good, our wiper blades should come on. Oh, nice. Watch this. See that? Very nice. Yeah, check this out. So our test light is connected to ground. When I send ground down this pink wire with the yellow tracer, our wiper blades come on. So I am bypassing the switch with the test light connected to ground. So it's always good to know how to do this bypass test. Okay? So this really helps with knowing if the switch is the problem, or if you have a wiring problem, or if you have a module problem. So when I didn't see 0.02 volts on the dark blue wire over here, I knew that my problem was coming from the jam module, because we didn't have ground on the dark blue wire. And when I sent ground on this pink wire with the yellow tracer and my wipers were not working, that also told me that my problem was the jam module, because I was sending ground to the jam module, telling it to turn on the wiper motor. Okay, so when I send ground down this wire, I'm basically signaling the jam module to turn on the wiper motor, because the wiper motor is turned on by the jam module. So when I touch this back probing tool over here on this pink wire, I let off and our wiper blades stop. So this is good. We're good to go. So this is good. We're good to go. I'm gonna put everything back together and then I'll bring you guys back up. I have put everything back together. I have reinstalled the steering column covers and the cover that covers the dash fuse box. So everything is reinstalled. So now let's check this one more time before we wrap up this video. So key is on. I'm gonna press the button. Wipers work. So we're good. All right. So we're gonna have a happy customer. So now I feel comfortable delivering this back to the customer. We have fixed everything that this truck came here for. So now let's wrap up this video. I'm gonna leave this right over here. This truck is fixed. The problem on this truck was a defective generic electronic module and a defective vacuum pump under the hood. This truck came to us because it was stuck on defrost and the wiper blades were not working. We replaced the bad components. Now all is well. So I'm gonna leave this right over here. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why so we can make better videos in the future. If this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. Thanks for watching. See you next time.